We are live.
Hi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are kind of grooving to some music because that's the mood that we are in. Seriously, though, we are coming live in a few wellness groups this morning or this afternoon, and bringing to you. I have Melissa today with us. Hey, Melissa. And, you know, we're all so happy that you've taken the time out of your busy schedules. We know we're all busy mamas, to hear this important information. Okay, I'm going to have to turn the music down. Alexa, off.
Oh, Alexa.
Alexa, off. All right. That was fun. So let's get down to it because we have 30 minutes here and we have a lot of information to bring to you. So buckle up, let's get started. If you are coming on live, let us know that you're here, okay? Put live in the comments. Tell us where you're coming in from. We like to know where all our wellness peeps are tuning in from. And if you are catching it on the replay, just put replay in the comments. We will circle back to you and answer any questions. So first of all, I want to applaud everyone that's here today, right? Because that means that this has some real meaning to you, right? And you are open to learning something new, right? Because we are going to be bringing you some new stuff today, all right? And our hope is that it just sheds some hope, shed some light that there is something else that can help your kids, right? There's some brightness to all this. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. We're going to present some screens here, some slides. Give me a moment. All right. Melissa, let me know if that is good.
Oh, it looks good.
Okay. All right. All right. So we're here today to help you improve your kids' focus and stress resilience without all the side effects of the meds, right? Okay. Give me a moment. Technology. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about really, what is ADHD? For years, I was kind of scrambling to get at, what is causing my child to feel the way they feel. And really, it's just a collection of symptoms, how current pharmaceutical solutions, kind of the offering that we are usually turned on to, only treat the symptoms and not really get to the root cause.
Yeah. Right?
So we're also going to talk about a little bit of science, and Melissa is our science guru. So we're going to touch on that. And, really it's new, right? It's kind of emerging science that is pointing to not what's in our head, okay? And then we're going to introduce to a new natural solution that is based on this new science that can really help your kids without all these side effects, okay? So why is it important that you're here, that you're taking time to kind of tune into this? As moms, we want our kids to succeed. We want the best for our kids, no doubt, but we don't want them to struggle, right? It's an overwhelming, from my personal experience, and Melissa and I are going to share our personal experience. It's an overwhelming, stressful navigation, right? Of ADHD in itself, but also the solutions. And as moms, we want to worry less, right? It's a constant worry about our kids when they are struggling. We want a solution that works, but is safe, right? And it doesn't make our kids feel different or kind of off. And finally, we want harmony in our household, because how many of you you know, having a kid that is struggling affects your whole entire harmony, right? And how your, you know, like your home vibe just kind of functions, right? I know it did for me. So here we are. So Melissa, I just want you to kind of introduce yourself to our group and kind of, you know, what brought you here with your son.
Yeah, and I think, you know, both of us came into the science of the gut-brain connection through our kids. And that really was a connection point for Colleen and I. So I'm Melissa, if we haven't met or talked before. And yeah, it's interesting. My son had some focus issues, some ADD, but the real kind of bigger picture issues for him was pretty severe depression and anxiety. And just like lacking any stress resilience whatsoever. And kind of everything came to a head about 12 months ago, or 14 months ago. Time is moving fast. And I was at that moment in time really desperate for a solution, really desperate to help him, right? You reach a point where, you know, it's not functioning anymore, right? You kind of think, oh, it's okay, we can try this or do this, we're okay. And then at some point you realize you need to find another solution, right? It's just not working. And so we reached that point about 14 months ago. And honestly, thank God we did, because it led me to really understand, you know, how to get to the root of the issue and not kind of treat each symptom with a separate Band-Aid, right?
Exactly. I know exactly how you feel, because we were in the same boat. My son, who you see here, 23, this journey started way back when he was 6 years old. So imagine over 18 years of trying to get to the root cause. So during his early years of elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way through college, we fumbled around through this navigation of experimenting with all the pharmaceutical meds, because that was the only solution that was being offered to us. And that came with a host of side effects, right? So we were not only going from one pharmaceutical to the next, trying to find something that worked, because we wanted something that worked, right? But we also wanted him not to feel like all the side effects. And we're going to go through the side effects in a little bit. But for Eamon, it was more like not feeling himself.
Yeah.
That zombie-like state, his personality flattened, and a lot of sleeplessness. So the meds would kind of get him to focus, but then his brain would just not shut off. Yeah. So we were treating the side effects with another pharmaceutical med. So I was just kind of as a mom, just kind of banging her head up against a wall. Like, how can this be a solution when the side effects were kind of outnumbering the benefits, truly? So we're going to kind of, so just know that we are two moms that have gone through this journey, right? Of just kind of navigating. And, for those of you, I first want to say, those of you who are doing what I did, experimenting with the meds because that's all you know, this is a no shame, no guilt zone. Let's just put it out there. No shame, no guilt, because we don't know what we don't know until we know it, right?
Yeah, and we just want to help our kids, right? Yeah. That's the bottom line. So we're willing to honestly do anything to help our kids. And so, for the moms out there whose kids are taking medication, what we present is something that you can bring on as an addition, right? So we're not saying that, it has to be one or the other, because nothing is really that black and white, right?
Exactly. I do, want to bring, something to everyone's attention that's on this slide, because I was not aware of it. This FDA black box warning, it's there because of the side effects of, some of the harsh side effects. And, we're just going to kind of challenge your belief here that there are other options that you can introduce, that it can be something that you just bring into play and see how your kids feel about it, right? And, it's a simple, no side effects solution that can help our kids feel and perform better. Navigating technology here. Okay, so here are some other families, and we have actually Michelle on with us live today. I spoke with her last Friday, and when I say her story just gave me chills because it kind of brought me right back to where I was with my son. So her story is in our group, along with a lot of other testimonials. But what I love about her story is that they tried every solution out there and every strategy, worked with the schools, worked with different therapies. And what really kind of got her daughter over the hump and really being self-sufficient with all her schoolwork, really in and out of the classroom, was bringing this holistic solution into play. And then we also have Nicole and her son. She's actually a mom of 3 ADHD kids, so a whole family. So imagine a busy mom managing a household, 3 kids with ADHD. She was thrilled when this solution came around, and it really kind of saved her son that was in high school. She says that getting a kid through high school with ADHD is just no easy task, right? No easy, you have to jump through hoops sometimes. So the solution is really helping her family kind of manage their emotions, find more focus, and that, I love what she says, that ability to find calm in the chaos, right? Yeah. And Melissa, I know you can attest to some of that.
Yeah, and really these solutions are not just for our kids, right? They're for us as parents too. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but I have 3 boys myself, and, even kids that really aren't suffering in the same way are challenging. And so I just feel like when we're more resilient and we can kind of ride the wave better, it sets a tone in our house, right? Everyone responds to that kind of calm versus chaos.
Absolutely. And I actually think back on all the situations that I was put in as a mom with some, a kid that was struggling, or even just a busy, stressed mom. I look back and all the situations that I could have handled a little bit differently. Right? Yeah. And not beating myself up, because we're not going back. We're moving forward.
Right.
But it is amazing how it helps the entire family vibe.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Let's get into the little nitty-gritty about, how ADHD is a collection of symptoms, not just up here, right? It's a collection of symptoms caused by some, imbalances. And Melissa is going to dive a little deeper into those imbalances.
Yeah, I mean, so ADHD is really not a psychiatric disorder. That means there are not biomarkers, right, that we can specifically diagnose ADHD. What it is really kind of this imbalance, this disease in your body that's causing symptoms in your brain, right? And we know that the symptoms are not just focus, right? That's a large piece of it. And that's kind of the biggest thing that can present itself. But we know there's a lack of stress resilience, there's anxiety, right? Just being overwhelmed easily. So, and often depression too, and that can also be related to, you know, how our kids are seen by professionals and their teachers and how they're treated and kind of labeled, right? So all of that goes hand in hand. I mean, it's hard to separate one from another, but really when we start to think about it as this imbalance in our body that's causing an imbalance in our brain, right? That's what we're talking about. It's not one, you know, neurotransmitter. It's not one problem. It's not just focus, right? It's just this collection.
Right. And I want to touch what you said about the labels, Melissa, because I know way back, and even, you know, as my son got older, he was labeled, you know, and you know, by him not doing something, it wasn't that he didn't want to, right? Our kids want to succeed. Our kids want to do well. And, you know, those labels of being lazy, you know, what do you mean you didn't turn your assignment in? Why? You know, and it does affect our kids' confidence, their self-esteem, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the key. It's not their fault. Absolutely. And, you know, I love this slide because when we talk about ADHD, we know the common medications, right, that are out there. I actually had tried 𝘀𝗵𝗱𝗃 for my son because he has some weight issues, so he couldn't be on kind of like a Ritalin type medication. But, you know, we know, you know, Ritalin and kind of medications like that are really affecting our norepinephrine, right, which is the neurotransmitter that helps us focus. But that's just one piece of a really big puzzle. You know, then you could take Prozac. I know we have Prozac on here for mood, right? That's going to help increase your serotonin and make you a little happier. But how about motivation, right? Then you're talking about something like Wellbutrin, which increases your dopamine. So you're more motivated and excited, right? So really, when we think about those pharmaceuticals, we're treating all of these symptoms. We're treating depression and kind of a lack of motivation and focus, but we're never getting to the root cause. And when we start to address the root cause, this imbalance in our body, then we can start to understand why there's this imbalance of all of these neurochemicals in the brain, right? So we're taking away kind of these Band-Aids that only treat one piece of the puzzle, and we're trying to get to the source of the problem so that we can really alter our biology from the root.
Yeah, wow, that was huge. And, you know, here just a little, you know, more of those side effects, right? These are all things that my son experienced when we kind of went from the various Ritalins, Concertas, Vyvanse. I think we tried them all.
Yeah.
But, you know, like you said, loss of appetite, that was huge for my son. There were some days he didn't eat, like, you know, and there comes in the mama bear, you know, wanting to take care of their child, and they don't want to eat. Sleeplessness, he was on one for focus, one to get him to sleep, right? And that personality zombie-like flattening of energy and motivation, it affected him in sports, right? As he got up into the middle school, high school years, you know, sports we had to kind of time when we were taking the meds. So it's a huge navigation process.
It is a navigation. I remember, you know, trying with this 𝘀𝗵𝗃𝗃, you know, my son Benjamin was young at the time, and he had so much anxiety just trying to swallow it, right? We don't even think of like the basic process of like, how do we get it in? He couldn't even get that far, you know, he just had like so much anxiety over that.
And, you know, and we're kind of chuckling here, and it's no, you know, it's no easy task, but that brings me back to me following my son into elementary school, into the nurse's office, and having the nurse try to help him take it. Yeah. So, you know, just a quick recap here, ADHD is more than just the inability to focus. All those different feelings and performance, you know, mental performance capacities come into play. And, you know, why pharmaceuticals are just not a home run. they leave the root cause unsolved. And we're trying to get to the root and not just continue, putting the Band-Aids on.
Yeah.
We're being totally honest with you guys here. But I want to hear from people that are on live or on the replay. What are your experiences? What are you experiencing with your kids, so we can kind of, help you and guide you along. But turning now towards this new science, right? Really kind of why we're here, to introduce something probably new to you. About a year ago, this was brand new to me. I didn't even know what a microbiome was. And I'm like, micro what?
Yeah. And, it's really new science. And when we say that, the science of kind of how our gut really interacts with the whole rest of our body we've known about it actually for decades, but in the last 5 years is when it's really kind of gotten more into the mainstream. There's like hundreds of scientific papers written every year about it. I mean, last year, I think there were like 600 papers written about the microbiome and various parts of like chronic illness in our body. So what we're talking about here, when we talk about the microbiome, we're really talking about this collection of trillions and trillions of microbes. These really small, it could be bacteria, viruses, they're all sorts of different tiny organisms. And about 95% live in our large intestines. So that's what we're talking about. And our microbiome, we thought, they just kind of live there, right? All these microbes just live there. And it's what we're starting to understand is their role in the processes of every part of our body, right? Our digestion, our immunity, our immune system, right? Cancer prevention, our metabolism, our hormones. And what we're talking about today is how our microbiome, how our gut is really acting as our second brain. And talking to our first brain. So most of the neurotransmitters that we know of, right? Serotonin makes you feel happy. GABA makes you feel calm, right? Norepinephrine, which is really big when we talk about ADHD, helps you focus. All of those neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. About 95% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. So they're produced in the gut. And then they signal, there's kind of a communication system up to your brain. So, think about it. If your gut is not balanced and not healthy, then all of these neurochemicals are not getting produced and they're not signaling up to your brain. And what we're really talking about is balance. Right? Balance is the key. So we're not talking about, well, you need X amount of, serotonin and X amount of norepinephrine. Every person is really individual. So your kind of neurochemical cocktail that's going to make you thrive is not going to be the same as your neighbor. So the key is creating this really diverse kind of ecosystem in our gut with a lot of different microbes. And what that does is it creates the right amount of neurochemicals, neurotransmitters for you, right? Not necessarily your neighbor, for you. So that's the individual piece that we're missing, especially when we talk about pharmaceuticals, right? This is a really individual process to fine-tune this balance in our gut so that we find balance in our brain.
Exactly. And it's going to allow your brain to do what it's supposed to do when it needs to do it. Right, Melissa?
Yeah. And I'm looking at Rebecca's comment, with the OCD and anxiety and rage. And it's really interesting because, that's exactly what we're talking about. Like my son presented anxiety, depression, but really, there were so many other things, right? When you start to think back about your kid, the picture is so much bigger, right? We absolutely walked on eggshells, right? Because we didn't want to set him off. And so a big piece of this is stress resilience, right? And Colleen and I just talked about that yesterday, how to build stress resilience. But that's a big piece of this, is not just the focus or the calm, It's building up our body's ability to ride the wave.
Exactly, exactly. So let's get to the solution, okay? Let's just get right to it.
Yeah.
So here we have our kids pack, right? We've been talking on our other lives. We've introduced this kids pack. We've been talking about the adult fundamentals, but here we have this comprehensive, that's what I really want to get across here, comprehensive gut-brain axis system. So this is the solution that is backed by the science that Melissa just talked about. And look at these, you know, we've done clinical trials. 10 out of 10 kids saw an improvement in their focus, in their mood, in their mental performance. So here we go, the whole gamut of not just focus, right? It introduces this idea of stress resilience. 29% improvement overall. So, some kids were getting a lot of improvement. Some kids, might need some more work with their microbiome, but 29% improvement in focus, mood, listening, tension, irritation. So all these things, all these ADHD collection of symptoms, we're seeing improvement with. 18% improvement when they're put in a stressful situation. So this is really important because it means when they're sitting down to take a test, when they're doing their homework, when they're trying to read and comprehend, when they're put in social situations or their sports, we're seeing improvement in these mood states.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk for a second about what's in the pack.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty amazing pack. So the fundamentals is kind of the cylinder there. That's a powder, and there is a scooper in the powder. And that really focuses on the gut, the brain, and the communication system in between. There's a few different ways that our gut communicates with our brain, and one of those ways is our immune system. So there's a lot of immune priming and support in the fundamentals. The key part of the fundamentals for me, it's really a pretty unbelievable product, but the key is the polyphenols and the phytonutrients. And there's a lot of data and studies that are going to start coming out, especially this year, about polyphenols, which are the compounds in plants that give them their colors. But it's really a variety of plants that's going to create a diverse, varied ecosystem in your gut. So when this solution is plant-based and natural, meaning it's not synthetic, so we're really just feeding our microbiome all of this food to create like a really diverse ecology, because that's what we need, right? We need diversity. So that for me is like the biggest part of the fundamentals, but there's also some great things in there like New Zealand pine bark, which helps reduce inflammation in your brain and really helps with brain fog and focus. And then the mood. So the mood, the key ingredient in that is saffron, and they actually use a patented form of saffron called Affron. But saffron is unbelievable. It's actually used as a first-line therapy in parts of Asia and Europe for ADHD, for depression, for anxiety, and it's been used for a very long time because it has about 160 bioactive compounds. And what that means is it's just supporting the microbiome, your immune system, inflammation. So mood is amazing, and it's not really just for kids, it's for adults too. And then
I swear by this.
Well, Colleen takes it all the time. If I'm talking to Colleen, she's invariably taking kids food.
And what's really great, guys, it's a pixie stick. So your kids are going to love it, right?
Yeah. You don't have to take it with water. They can actually bring it to school. Yeah. Like if your kids eventually ever go to school, they can take it at school. And then the Kids Vita GBX is just an amazing vitamin. And we kind of miss this piece. my kids are really picky when it comes to a vitamin, and they definitely don't eat the way they should, despite me trying. But, you know, fundamentally, we need just a whole lot of nutrition. And so that VitaGPX kind of addresses the overall nutrition piece.
It's the missing gap, right?
Yeah.
I hear all the time, picky eaters, but just let's just face it, when they're young, it's really hard to, you know, bring them up on, you know, all plants, all veggies. And
it is. It's very hard. And right. And then for some kids, like my son has a real weight issue. He's very, very small. So we're always just pushing calories. And unfortunately, like a variety of plants is not super caloric. Like we need like heavy duty calories.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that VitaGPX is key. So, you know, what does this mean for your kids? It's a natural solution that can help your kids flourish, right? It's getting all the nutrients that are the growing minds need, the ADHD mind needs, and your kids will feel happier, more focused, more motivated, calm, resilient. We've seen it in our kids. We've seen it in so many other kids and families. It's just, you know, amazing. And this I love because we didn't show it, but there is a mental wellness spectrum that ADHD kind of falls on the 1, 2, 3, but we can take them from being frustrated to focused, anxious to calm, blah, sad, a little depressed to happy, stressed to resilient. So we're moving the needle for them and making them, you know, perform, you know, more optimally.
Yeah. And I think what's amazing is, you know, wherever you fall, if you think of this kind of 1 to 10 continuum, the spectrum, wherever you or your kids are falling, we can start to slowly move the needle up, right? And then once you get, you know, to say feeling a little bit better, right, in the middle of the range, you know, the longer you stay on the products, you start to move the needle up even more. So it's not like you get someplace and you stay there, right? The longer you remain on the products, you start to continue more change. And to answer Rebecca's comment about the kids pack, pretty young kids start the fundamentals. I know there are kids as early as 3 and 4 who begin the kids pack.
And then all the way up until, you know, my son, who started it when he was 22, he started on the kids pack just because it's easier to take. And then he graduated kind of to the adult pack. But this is an example too, is my daughter who's in college, is on the kids pack because it gives her the stress resilience.
Yeah.
Right? She's 20, you know, so.
And honestly, some adults prefer to take the kids pack for a variety of reasons. It's really the same as the adult. There's just a couple ingredients missing. So you can kind of dose it and take it as an adult too, if someone prefers that. So, you know, we can kind of really be flexible with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's just kind of take this all home, right? You know, we have to look at ADHD in a different way, right? It's not just a brain issue, right? Pharmaceuticals, while they're being offered as a first-line therapy, let's look at another alternative that could be a first-line therapy or an addition to help with some of those side effects. And there's new science that is emerging. It's coming out in every mass media now. You know, you can't go to the supermarket without looking at something talking about the gut microbiome. And this solution is based on this new science. And it really, you know, it really gets to the root causes for our kids. So, are you ready to help your kids thrive? Let's hear it.
Yeah, if you're ready, just put ready in the comments and we will absolutely follow up with you.
Right. And, you know, I just want to say that, you know, as parents, you know, we know the struggle, right? We know that it can be stressful and This is just a tool that you can give your kids. You can have it for yourself. You can have your whole family kind of vibing the way it should without the struggle. And I hope that by sharing our stories, by bringing you this kind of piece of education, that it gets you thinking that there are other options. And like Melissa said, if you are ready to get started, just put get ready in the comments, tag the person that invited you to this workshop, and we will make sure that that person, you know, reaches out to you and has a conversation on getting you started, getting your kids feeling happier and more focused and more resilient.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to add, Melissa?
I don't think so. It all sounds good.
All right. Like we said, if any questions, put them in the comments. We will circle back to you. And thank you so much for joining us. This has been great.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.